Welcome to another edition of the Morning Briefing. I'm Jeff DeForest, and we welcome back from Parts Unknown. From Parts Unknown, our partner on the program. We want to thank Henry Markin from No Filter for filling in. Did a very admirable job during your absence here. But we welcome back from his travels to Morocco, Mike Luby Lubitz. And of course, nothing in your life can ever be simple, Michael, can it? You're going on a vacation to a relatively obscure place. You're going to eat some baklava and maybe some mint tea, have a couple of salads, that pastilla pie that I was recommending to you. Walk around, say, hey, people pretty much look the same here all over. It doesn't matter where you go. You could be in Marrakesh, you could be in Casablanca. It's all about the same. And it isn't like you're at like the Aventura Mall here in South Florida when you were at some of these shopping places. But what happens? Like a 6.8 Richter scale shattering a catastrophic earthquake hits, and what? You were shaken and not stirred. How did that impact your trip?
It's funny. It happened at the time we were in a place called Fez, so we're about 200 miles away, and it was anywhere from a 6.8 to a 7.1, depending on what sources you looked at. We did feel a 2. Okay, so from being from South Florida, 2 felt like more than enough for us. Our hotel swayed. My wife freaked out and left me behind.
Yes. Oh, she ran into the streets screaming, naked.
Because our room, the door locked from the inside, and I'm from South Florida. Like, you lock the door, I don't trust leaving doors unlocked. So she went to unlock it and run, and I'm like, "Where are you going?" She's like, "You gotta go," and I'm like, "Why?" Like,
boulders are rolling down the mountains, buildings are collapsing around her.
So she ran.
It's like a scene out of Escape from New York.
Yeah, so she ran. I locked the door. We have no shoes on. We have no cell phone. We're in the street.
In Morocco, no less.
In Morocco.
Not a place that you're particularly familiar with all the customs and or the language and or the general philosophies of the people.
Yes. So,
all right. So you survived that. I mean, I was surprised the next stop on your itinerary wasn't Libya, which was hit with a catastrophic flood shortly after your arrival there in Morocco. But you had a good time then. Is that
yes,
the general word, that you had a good time? I saw you doing a bunch of different things there. I never thought that you would actually be riding a camel, although I've often wanted to crossbreed some of the horses that I've bet on with a camel, or a giraffe would be even better, so they could just plop that neck on the wire and give us a winner. All right, and we have to issue apologies in your absence. I gave out a bunch of games. I was influenced by some people. Should always. I don't know that I can say I didn't agree with these particular selections here. One was based on some heavily statistically based material from our good friend Mark Lawrence, and he liked East Carolina against Appalachian State. In fact, as I was watching the scores of that game mount in favor of Appalachian State, based on the fact that Appalachian State somehow, after a full moon on a Tuesday night following a victory against a Power 5 conference team, is 0-117 in this spot against the point spread. And going back to the beginning of time, they have never, ever covered a point spread under these circumstances. So, of course, they're covering by like 20 points the entire ball game. And I texted Henry, who I had made the selection with. I texted him a picture of Colonel Kurtz from Apocalypse Now when he was on his deathbed, and he's schwitzing, and he's got like I guess he was wearing lampblack, like he was going to go out and play halfback for the Packers after the war was over. And, he's got blood smeared all over his face, and he just goes out with the words, the horror, the horror. Because it continued, as we recommended you go against those toothless hillbillies from Gainesville. Oh, and that was the professor who was an advocate of this play. And I thought, you know what, this guy really knows his shit when it comes to college football. I mean, you won't find a guy that makes a more eloquent case with more, factual material, and not necessarily like pie in the sky of fantasy type of stuff. Talking about, changes with the transfer portal and what this happened and that happened. The offensive line brings back like 4 out of 5 guys, and they're all monsters. Really knows his stuff in terms of the analytics. So he loves Tennessee in this game. And Josh Heupel, wow! I mean, what a bizarre move. He calls a timeout with 7 seconds to go. Did you happen to see this? They're finished. The game's over. You're going to have the Gators are going to take a knee, and Heupel calls a timeout. So what do you think is going to transpire after that? An all-out brawl.
Oh
Way to
yeah.
go, Josh Heupel, after losing that ball game. I mean, a really classless maneuver there. I'm surprised that Napier didn't punch him in the face when they came across to meet at halftime, which I know. The other thing on the college slate, so we lose both of those games, by the way, and we finally had a winner last night with the Miami Dolphins, although even that, we were on our knees praying to the gods of gambling. Don't fuck me, gods. Don't fuck me. Was that not the situation? I mean, and on top of that, I mean, the audacity of having to dangle Mike Gesicki, the former Dolphin, in our face, who was about to be part of the catalyst of our, a downfall in this ball game, as Mac Jones and the Patriots seemed to be hopelessly outplayed the entire contest, Luby. Was this not one of those deals where it's just decisive in favor of the Miami Dolphins all the way through? Their offense is flowing. They're not scoring a ton of points, but they're moving the ball at will. They're making plays. Final minute of the first half, they managed to put points on the board. I mean, doing everything right. That would lead you to think that not only are they going to win, but they're easily going to annihilate the point spread while laying either 2.5 or 3 on the road against the New England Patriots. Who, Belichick, does he not look like he's suffering from some kind of, just chronic hemorrhoidal attack as he's on the sidelines now? He doesn't look like a happy man. In fact, he was bitching and screaming after the ball game. It was a disgrace, Belichick. I mean, you've had your share of success. I'm not going to be the one that doubts you without Tom Brady. I think you're still probably a slicker coach than most of the guys in the league. Certainly, you would rather have Belichick on your sideline, approaching, what is he, like 75 now? Schuler's got to be laughing too as he rolls over in his grave and watches these games. Seeing that Bob Kraft, you know that Don Schuler, the epitome of dignity in class. He probably would be the last guy.
Belichick 71. He looks
71, man. I mean, it's kind of like when you see presidents after their 4-year term, with the possible exception of Trump, who looked about the same when he left office as he did coming in. Maybe that's that strange orange tinge. But Obama looked like, unfortunately, he looked like a cancer survivor after his presidency. Came in a young man, he's shooting hoops, He's running with the Celtics. Larry Bird is, shooting threes with him. And Magic, is throwing those hook passes around the back, and there's Obama. He's going in for the layup. He looks like Ernie DiGregorio, man, going to the basket there. It was great back in his heyday. And after he was finished being president, now he was president 8 years, so you have to factor in a little bit of a exponential component there in terms of the aging process. But he looked like he was 107 years old.
Yes.
Right. It's like they wheeled out Louis Armstrong. To blow that horn one more time. Hey, come on, Louis. Saints go marching in. Belichick is taking on some of those signs, though, is he not? And for good reason, right? The team isn't that good, but somehow he manages to have them hang in there in this ball game last night. And it comes down to a guy named Strange being an elbow short of giving the Patriots a first down. You're literally you're on your knees, as I said. Gods of gambling. You're looking up in the sky from your knees and screaming at the top of your lungs, as I've done many times at the racetrack. Don't fuck me, gods. Please do not fuck me. All right, so the Dolphins come out with a win. That was our only winner there. The Colonel Kurtz thing was very applicable. The hate mail that came forward, we appreciate that. The comments were exceedingly negative, like, this guy can't pick his nose. What are you doing? So we finally get off to Schneider, and maybe that'll put us on a roll with the Miami Dolphins in this ball game. Is Mike McDaniel not the strangest cat that you've ever seen? I kind of like it, but you're not getting the typical off the field at halftime while leading by 10 points and dominating the ball game type of coach speak out of Mike McDaniel, are you? Well, you know what? There's still 30 minutes to play here, and we got to suck it up in the second half here. And they're a good team in there in that other locker room. And I tell you what, when two good football teams get together, going to be a good game. Watch for an exciting finish, people. But we're going to have to clean up a few things if we're going to come out of here with a victory. He doesn't say any of that, right? I mean, you literally think that either he was spending a lot of time in the dark with Aaron Rodgers, or this guy is Nietzsche reincarnated.
I was gonna say it's like Sartre.
Hello? Reporter on the sideline asks the usual innocuous question. Hey, coach, how happy are you with the player two there in the first half? And, are you happy with some of the decisions that you're making? And he says, I don't have anything to do with it. As if George Santos was on the sidelines there. What place? It's great, man. But very effective. I mean, that Dolphin offense could be electrifying. Belichick does a good job. He had like 9 safeties in the game and an umbrella. I mean, he was in the old umbrella D, where you're going to give up anything that's 5 yards or less. They're going to march right down the field any fashion that they want. They rack up like 150 yards in rushing last night, 120 by Raheem Mostert. And, Belichick just says, don't fuck me, guys.
Exactly.
If I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose in there with a chance. To me, that's good coaching, where you don't have the goods, but somehow you're still in there with a chance. So we finally hit a winner in that ball game. A lot of other stuff was going on, though. You had to be schwitzing a little bit. Some of the heavyweights in college football didn't look like it was kind of like a deal where everybody turned out to be a fraud. No, Georgia's in there staggering around against some cupcake, like the third one they've taken on so far this year. Alabama is in a dogfight with South Florida. Are you kidding me? And what are they doing playing South Florida on the road? What kind of obligation did they have to fulfill to make a commitment to that? This isn't some SEC thing. How many millions of dollars? I mean, when you have Alabama traveling to South Florida, and could they find a weaker opponent and then be staggering around here? When Saban, we were making fun of Nick Saban for saying, well, I can't name my starting quarterback. I see why. All of them suck.
It makes sense.
They're all bad. How did this happen?
I don't know.
Every hamburger stand in America is sending their All-Americans to Alabama. Mm-hmm. They had 9 Alabama players in the game last night that was played between the Patriots and the Dolphins. Yep. 9 guys from Alabama were on the field. Most of them probably, including the 2 quarterbacks. In recent times, right? 2 starting quarterbacks in the National Football League that at least have a modicum of respect, although you hate Mac Jones. You're thinking that the people in Beantown would rather have Sam Jones playing quarterback. I don't know. He's not terrible. I don't think he's the worst quarterback in the league by any stretch of the imagination. We've seen, much worse than that for sure. But yeah, I mean, how is it possible that they're staggering there against South Florida? And then your Florida State Seminoles, what do we make of that, Mike Lubię? I know you were traveling and didn't get to see much of this game. But Boston College, 18 penalties, sets the NCAA record and exceeds by 1 the number of penalties that Faber College was called for in their lone game under the sanctioning of the National Collegiate Athletic Association. Blutarski was the primary culprit there. He was called many times for violations of unnecessary roughness and personal fouls, including not smelling very good. But no, I mean that was crazy. 18 penalties, and they're still in a game.
Yes, with
a chance to really screw things up for the Florida State Seminoles in terms of their national championship qualifications. And what that set them back a peg in terms of the rankings, dropped to like number 4. So that was interesting. But the most interesting thing of the weekend, of course, is, and I wait in wild anticipation, Lubię. I don't know if I mentioned this to you. You know I'm a big fan of Scott Pelley and the crew on 60 Minutes.
Yep.
They're having, and I see the promo during the Cowboys game against the Jets, which we want to get to also. But I see the promo, and it has, Zelensky being interviewed by Scott Pelley. Big thing about illustrating what's going on. I mean, all of this, rancor and acrimony that's happening in Israel right now. And then Deion Sanders. No, I like the Deion Sanders story. I do. I love seeing people do things, and a lot of people do. You're rooting. He's an underdog in this case. He's the last person a lot of people thought could even go into Jackson State and make something happen. They thought this was going to be figurehead city, and maybe it is. But if it is, it works, because he had wild, unanticipated, and unparalleled success at that level of coaching. And then he takes a whole bunch of these guys, including many of his players, to Colorado, where they won one game last year.
Yep.
They were on the verge of extinction in terms of relevance, according to the athletic director in this 60 Minutes piece. But is that it? That's the third most important story that 60 Minutes could cover in their, I think it's their 53rd season debut. Andy Rooney had to be rolling over his grave. Did you ever think we'd be interviewing a football coach on the debut of our 53rd season? Can you imagine?
Like, I get it. It's a big story, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It just felt.
Is it
weak.
that big? I mean, is it really that big? I know in pop culture right now, it's all the rage. There's no doubt. And it is a good story. Guy gets rid of an entire college team and transfers in a whole new team.
Yes.
But with an emphasis on academics, no less. Bro, we really want these kids to get an education. That's what I tell them all the time. Come on, Prime. Who the fuck are you kidding? And I'm a fan. You're not a fan of Deion Sanders. The only thing, with Deion Sanders, I didn't care for it when he dumped the beer on Tim McCarver's head. McCarver had been critical of Sanders showing up late for a World Series game and saying how selfish it was. That, and maybe, I mean, look, McCarver's old school. This guy was friends with Steve Carlton. Nobody was friends with Steve Carlton. Carlton didn't like anybody. And he kept McCarver in the league. So, I mean, he when he was Tony down a bunt, by somebody in a Dodger game against the Giants. But he should have had more respect than that. You don't dump a beer on this guy's head. The guy's in his 80s or whatever he was at the time. And you don't, pumping your chest and all the gesticulations there. Much more inclined to go with it. They act like I think I lost you. Are you there?
Yeah, your internet's fun. You've had a tough morning. You're going like in and out. I'm here.
Oh, shit.
We're on.
What should we do?
You're coming in now. I see you. Hello. Yes.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm in. Okay, all right, good.
Yeah.
That's kind of wild. All right, one way. We're on Deion Sanders, prime
Yes.
time. And, the whole thing, 60, do you think it's overblown? I mean,
Yes.
they couldn't find some opera star.
Yeah.
They couldn't find, some ballerina with no legs. That was, in the top places. Nothing like that. They had to get a football coach.
Oh, God.
All right, a couple of things. Sorry about the internet interruption there. Power's gone out in my house today. A lot of different things are happening. Luby's just back from Morocco. He's shaking sand out of his pockets as we go. Did you do any camel racing while you were there?
No, I had you in mind though.
Yeah. Can you bet exactas when they're going 300 miles through the desert here?
It's like sledding.
No, not a turf. What are you talking about?
Oh, God.
All right, I had this discussion throughout last week on the morning briefing. Just real quickly here to conclude things about Zach Wilson, and again, not to pick on this guy. I know being the second overall pick, he's literally one pick away from being Jamarcus Russell. But that being said, I mean, doesn't seem like a bad guy. I would be the happiest person on earth, other than himself, I guess, if his career turned around. It turned out he was going to be a success. But the suspension of the truth that the New York Jet fans and New York media and people around the country were buying into. I mean, holy Jim Jones, what kind of Kool-Aid was this? This had to be a fentanyl and any kind of opioid that you could find, like something that even El Chapo wouldn't consider giving to somebody. That they were buying into the idea that by some miracle, this Zach Wilson what was going to overnight go from being the guy that they would have taken anything for, a bag of deflated footballs from the New England Patriots that they would have taken to have Zach Wilson be taken off their hands. And they bring in Aaron Rodgers with a lot of fanfare. And the curiosity story of the season would have been, how's that going to work? People were wild with anticipation that it was going to work out very well. But Rodgers goes down after 4 plays, and here comes Zach Wilson in, and somehow miraculously, because Buffalo was so bad that night.
Yep.
You would think that Roger Goodell, if he was doing his job, especially with the amount of money that's being wagered on professional football, would have been immediately appointed Jack Smith to investigate what the hell happened to the Buffalo Bills in that game, that they could lose to the Jets and Zach Wilson when they knew that Zach Wilson was the very scourge of New York as recently as last season. When he was benched, I mean, you were waiting for them to maybe sign Brian Hoyer instead of putting Zach Wilson out there. And he goes out, and this is a guy that's not bereft of talent. So every now and then you're looking and going, you know what, maybe. Goes a touchdown pass, and they're back in the ball game against a Dallas Cowboy team that was shredding them on both sides of the ball. It was an annihilation. One of the most lopsided games of the day. Very what they did to the Giants the week prior. They're putting monstrous pressure on Zach Wilson with the pass rush. Micah Parsons literally ended up with green, not from the turf, but from Jet uniforms. Imprinted onto his own jersey. He was so in the face of Zach Wilson in this game. They're getting totally outplayed. They're still in a ball game. It becomes 18-10, and then it starts to get out of hand. And what happens? You don't have a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers in there who is going to remain composed under these circumstances and has pulled off any number of miracles. That's not happening for Zach Wilson. He's going to deteriorate back into what he was when you wanted to get rid of him in the first place, unfortunately. And that's exactly what transpired. So I have never seen belief so quickly turned around. Not even Joel Osteen can turn somebody around this quickly. Which, just a quick story here about, I'm doing my walk of life yesterday, Lubię. I'm schwitzing. I'm just coming back from my little 4-mile jaunt. Heat of the day here. And, it was blazing hot yesterday afternoon when I got started. And, so I can't wait to finish this thing off. And I see some people dressed in, what would be a Jewish religious garb. And they're coming up the street. And I'm thinking, wow, is there a temple around here? Because I've seen people, that were obviously celebrating the Sabbath in more traditional, Orthodox Jewish fashions than I would be inclined to do. Mm-hmm. Which is, I couldn't wait to get in the house and chug down 2 Coors Lights to offset the schwitzing. And the guy actually stops me, and I thought he was asking for directions. One of the guys that was walking, towards me, and and I'm thinking, I don't have time for this. Right? All of a sudden, this guy turned into a Jehovah's Witness, and I almost used the line that The last time somebody said something like that, what was when I was with three bimbos in a limousine, and we were on our way, to some kind of wild party, that no doubt involved drugs and alcohol. And the girl that was sitting in my lap said, "Do you mind if I blow the chauffeur for you?" Hey, Zach, you hear what she said? I didn't say it. I resisted. I'm not that much of an asshole. But it took me a while to turn myself away from this guy. He was going to insist on, and the chauffeur for the uninitiated is kind of like, if you were in Hawaii and somebody was an expert, some Samoan was blowing on a conch shell.
Yeah.
Right. Like that time David Tua was fighting Lennox Lewis in Las Vegas, and he came in with a giant conch shell into the ring. And a Las Vegas showman, he started playing "You've Lost That Loving Feeling," which led me to be inclined to believe that he had no shot in what turned out to be a rather disgraceful performance by both fighters, but was easily dominated by Lennox Lewis in that fight. Anyway, the Zach Wilson miracle, the miracle on 42nd Street. I always thought it was, a miracle that anybody could survive eating at Tad's Steakhouse. Those steaks are hanging. You've seen the place, right? You know the place I'm talking about. But it didn't happen. It certainly wasn't going to be the Zach Wilson story, at least not this early on. And that was a very deflating, you would have to say, performance. Not totally his fault, as was pointed out to us by people that we were talking to on another show this morning. Okay, I understand all that, but this is not a guy that, if he was that man to begin with, you wouldn't have acquired Aaron Rodgers in the first place. That would have been such a distant consideration. It would have been, completely out of bounds. Final thing, too, you know how the people always hold the play chart up to their mouths in that game?
Yes.
Do you see Mike McCarthy? He obviously hasn't grasped the concept. I wouldn't be surprised if we found out that Bill Belichick had a couple of bird watchers in there. I don't know. I guess, the AFC East will be playing the Dallas Cowboys this year. So he probably, has all of the plays down. Tony Romo was just reciting the plays. And hell, even I knew the plays after a while that McCarthy was calling. Anybody, you didn't even have to be able to read lips. This didn't take any particular skill. All you had to do was you could see him mouthing the words, "Run the ball right side." I think he's going to have to work on that. No, he's got to cover that face like Andy Reid does. But Reid is trying to console, see the fact that it's actually a Chinese menu that he's reading off. Anyway, a lot of fun all the way around the weekend of football. A lot of fun being back with you here on the morning briefing. Michael, welcome back. Is it true that you want to be addressed as Mr. Morocco?
Not officially. But sure.
Cheesy wrestling circuit somewhere in Central Florida. Yeah, we got the gorilla coming in here, and tonight he's going to wrestle Mr. Morocco. Right, you're in the back there, trying to find out exactly at what point you should strangle yourself in the top rope. And then allow the ref to count 2, 3, and count you out of the thing. All right, don't count us out. We'll be back with you tomorrow. And sorry about some technical difficulties in the middle there. I don't know if we can clean that up, but let's hope that we can. And we finally got out of burying everybody with that big victory by the Dolphins last night. Although we had to sweat it out right to the bitter end. I couldn't help but think that all day long, right? Don't fuck me, gods. How many times have you said that, people? Right?
A lot.
That Washington Denver game. Oh my God. And how about if you had Arizona on the money line and you didn't realize they were tanking? Don't fuck me, gods. Don't fuck me. For Mike Lubitz, Mr. Morocco, I'm Jeff DeForest. We'll see you next time on the next edition of the Morning Briefing.